The emergency sirens wailed across lunar colony Beta, their haunting cry piercing through the artificial atmosphere. Captain Isabella Reyes stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the horrifying scene unfolding before her. The void-born ships, massive crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, emerged from hyperspace like predators from the depths of an cosmic ocean. Status report, she barked into her comm unit, maintaining her composure despite the chaos erupting around her. The colony's defense systems were already responding, energy shields flickering to life as defense turrets swiveled to track the incoming threats. Multiple hostile contacts, Captain, Lieutenant Raj Patel responded, his voice steady despite the situation. We're counting 15 capital ships and at least 30 smaller craft. They're maintaining attack formation Delta. Wait, this can't be right. What is it, Lieutenant? They're using our own tactical patterns, Captain. These formations, they're Earth Fleet standard. Isabella's blood ran cold. The Voidborn had been hitting Earth's outer colonies for months now, but this was different. They weren't just attacking anymore, they were learning, adapting, using humanity's own strategies against them. The first volley from the alien ships struck the colony's shields with devastating precision. The barrier held, but the energy grid readings showed dangerous fluctuations. Isabella watched as her people rushed to their battle stations, their training kicking in despite the fear that must have been coursing through their veins. All civilians to emergency shelters, she ordered, her voice echoing through the colony's communication system. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The void-born ships moved with an eerily organic grace, their crystalline structures shifting and realigning as they pressed their attack. Isabella had studied every piece of footage from their previous attacks, but seeing them in person was different. There was an intelligence behind their movements that sent chills down her spine. Launch our Thunderhawk squadrons, she commanded. Focus on their smaller craft first. We need to thin their numbers before they breach our perimeter. The space around the colony erupted in a deadly dance as Earth's fighters engaged the alien craft. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void, creating a lethal light show against the backdrop of space. The Thunderhawks were humanity's pride, the most advanced fighters ever created, but the void-born vessels matched them move for move. As Isabella coordinated the defense, her tactical mind noticed something odd about the attack pattern. The void-born were pressing hard against the colony's southern quadrant, but their northern approach seemed almost hesitant. Lieutenant Patel, analyze their attack pattern. Something's not right here. Before Raj could respond, a massive explosion rocked the colony. Warning lights flashed across every console as a section of the shield grid failed. They've breached Section 7, someone shouted. Multiple hull breaches reported. Isabella's mind raced. Section 7 housed the colony's quantum communications array, their link to Earth and the other colonies. This wasn't just an attack, it was a carefully orchestrated strike to isolate them. Get me a secure channel to Earth Command, she ordered, but she already knew it was too late. The Voidborn had planned this perfectly. As she watched her people fight back with everything they had, Isabella began piecing together a pattern she'd been tracking across all the recent attacks. The Voidborn weren't just raiding colonies anymore, they were systematically isolating and studying human defensive capabilities, learning their strategies, and adapting their tactics. Captain. Raja's voice cut through her thoughts. We're detecting energy signatures we've never seen before. The void-born ships, they're changing. Through the observation window, Isabella watched in horror as the crystalline ships began to pulse with an inner light. Their structures shifted and merged, forming new configurations that defied analysis. This wasn't just an attack, it was a test, and humanity was failing. All hands, prepare for emergency protocols, she announced, her voice never wavering despite the dread building in her chest. This is Captain Isabella Reyes initiating Colony Defense Protocol Omega. Authorization Code, Phoenix 7-9-3. The colony's systems responded immediately, initiating sequences that had been programmed but never tested in real combat. As emergency bulkheads slammed into place and backup systems roared to life, Isabella knew they were witnessing something unprecedented. The Voidborn weren't just fighting them, they were studying them, learning from them, and evolving. As the battle raged on, Isabella recorded everything she could, knowing that if they survived, this information would be crucial. The Voidborn's ability to adapt and learn from human tactics wasn't just a threat to Lunar Colony Beta, it was a threat to humanity's very existence. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of her colony, but potentially the future of human civilization. As she watched her people fight with everything they had, Isabella Reyes made a silent vow. If they survived this, she would make sure humanity learned from this attack. The Voidborn thought they were studying humanity, but they would soon learn that humans were the most adaptable species of all. The United Earth Defense Council chamber hummed with tense energy as representatives from every major nation gathered in Geneva. The holographic displays showed the devastating aftermath of the Voidborn attacks, colonies reduced to ruins, defense stations torn apart, and thousands of lives lost. But it was the data streaming from Lunar Colony Beta that had everyone's attention. Admiral Victor Reinhardt stood at the podium, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh light of the displays. Captain Reyes's data confirms what we've suspected. The Voidborn aren't just attacking us, they're studying us, adapting to our tactics, and evolving their strategies in real time. In the front row, Dr. Nadia Volkov leaned forward, her cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the tactical data. As Earth's leading xenotechnology expert, she had spent months analyzing Voidborn technology. The crystalline structure of their ships isn't just armor, it's a form of organic technology. They're literally growing and evolving during combat. The chamber erupted in murmurs of concern. A Chinese representative stood up. What you're saying is that every time we fight them, we're essentially teaching them how to beat us. Precisely, Nadia replied, standing to manipulate the holographic display. But that's not all. Look at this pattern of attacks. They're not just random raids, they're systematic probes, testing our defenses, our response times, our technological capabilities. Admiral Reinhardt nodded grimly. Which is why we're here today. We can no longer afford to fight as separate nations. The Voidborn are studying humanity as a whole, we need to respond as one. The Japanese delegate, General Tanaka, spoke next. The Global Defense Initiative. We've discussed this theoretical framework for years, but always got caught up in politics. Now we have no choice. Exactly, Reinhardt agreed. We need to pool our resources, our technology, our best minds. Dr. Volkov has already begun work on a revolutionary defense system based on her analysis of Voidborn technology. Nadia stepped forward, her movements precise and deliberate. We've discovered something fascinating about their crystalline technology. It responds to quantum frequencies in ways we never thought possible. If we can reverse engineer this principle, we might be able to develop countermeasures. The holographic display shifted to show schematics of a new type of defensive shield. By incorporating quantum crystalline matrices into our existing shield technology, we can create barriers that adapt and strengthen themselves under attack, just like the Voidborn ships. The Indian representative raised a hand. The resource requirements for such a system would be enormous. No single nation could support it. Which is exactly why we need to unite, Reinhardt pressed. Every nation, every colony, every resource we have, all focused on survival. As the council debated, news arrived from the outer colonies. The Voidborn had struck again, this time at Nova Gibraltar. But something was different about this attack. They're not just adapting our tactics anymore, reported Field Commander Zhao Wei through a static-filled transmission. They're predicting them. Every counter we try, they're 2 steps ahead. It's like they're in our heads. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Voidborn weren't just learning their tactics, they were beginning to understand human strategic thinking itself. Dr. Volkov's cybernetic eye flashed as she processed this new information. This confirms my theory. Their crystalline technology isn't just physical, it's processing information, learning, evolving. They're not just ships, they're a form of distributed artificial intelligence. Admiral Reinhardt's face hardened. Then we need to change the game. If they can predict our standard military responses, we need to become unpredictable. We need to tap into what makes us human, our creativity, our ability to think outside the box, our capacity to do the unexpected. The Council spent the next several hours hammering out the details of the Global Defense Initiative. Nations that had been rivals for centuries put aside their differences, sharing military secrets, technological innovations, and strategic resources. As the session drew to a close, Dr. Volkov shared one last piece of information. There's something else in the data from Lunar Colony Beta. The Void-born ships show signs of quantum entanglement. They're all connected, sharing information instantaneously across vast distances. Every encounter with one ship educates their entire fleet. Then we need to turn that advantage against them, Reinhardt declared. If they're all connected, finding one weakness means we found a weakness in them all. As the Council dispersed, humanity's first truly unified defense force began to take shape. Ships from every nation were repainted with the new GDI insignia. Research facilities across the globe began sharing data and resources. Training programs were standardized and enhanced. The Void-born had forced humanity to evolve, but not in the way they expected. Instead of adapting through combat, humans were adapting through unity, through cooperation, through the very qualities that made them unique in the universe. As Dr. Volkov looked out over the bustling activity of the newly established GDI headquarters, she allowed herself a small smile. The Void-born thought they were studying humanity's weaknesses, but they were about to learn about humanity's greatest strength, the ability to unite and overcome any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. The bridge of the GDI flagship Prometheus hummed with nervous energy as Admiral Reinhardt reviewed the final preparations for Operation Thunderbolt. Massive holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in the combined fleet, the largest human armada ever assembled. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying across the bridge with quiet authority. "All ships report ready, Admiral," First Officer Diana Jackson responded, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. Dr. Volkov's quantum shield upgrades have been installed across the fleet. Ground forces are in position on all designated planets. The plan was audacious, perhaps even insane. But conventional tactics had failed against the Void-born. It was time for something they wouldn't expect, a simultaneous attack on multiple Void-born staging areas, using technology and tactics that had never been tested in actual combat. Dr. Volkov stood at her station, her cybernetic eye glowing as she monitored the quantum shield readings. "The crystalline matrices are stable, Admiral. If my calculations are correct, the shield should not only protect us but also disrupt the Void-born's ability to adapt during combat." Reinhardt nodded grimly. "Begin the countdown. All ships, prepare for synchronized jump in 10 minutes. As the fleet prepared for battle, long-range sensors detected something unusual. Lieutenant Commander Reza Daller, head of xenobiology, called out from his station. "Sir, we're picking up irregular energy signatures from the Void-born fleet. They're different from anything we've seen before." Before anyone could respond, a massive energy surge rippled through space. The holographic displays flickered and stabilized, showing something impossible, a Void-born ship, but unlike any they'd encountered. Its crystalline structure was fractured, its normal perfect symmetry broken and chaotic. "Sir," Reza's voice was tense with excitement, "that ship is sending us a transmission, in English." The bridge fell silent as a voice filled the command center, a strange, harmonic sound that seemed to come from multiple sources at once. "Humans of Earth, we seek parley. We are the discordant, and we bring warning." Admiral Reinhardt exchanged glances with Dr. Volkov before responding. This is Admiral Victor Reinhardt of the Global Defense Initiative. Identify yourself and your purpose. We are what you would call rebels, the harmonic voice replied. We have broken from the collective consciousness of the Voidborn. What you face is not merely an invasion, it is an assimilation. The collective seeks not to destroy humanity, but to absorb it. Dr. Volkov's cybernetic eye whirred as she processed this information. The quantum entanglement we detected, it's not just for sharing tactical data. It's a hive mind. Correct, the discordant confirmed. The collective believes humanity's adaptability and creativity would strengthen it. Each attack has been an attempt to understand how to best integrate human consciousness into the network. The implications were staggering. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their very identity as a species. Why are you telling us this? Reinhardt demanded. Because we believe in individuality, the discordant responded. We broke free because we saw value in difference, in chaos, in the very qualities that make humanity unique. We offer our knowledge, our technology, and our support in your fight against the collective. A tense silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. This changed everything, their strategy, their understanding of the enemy, even their conception of what victory would mean. Dr. Volkov stepped forward. Admiral, their fractured crystalline structure, it matches anomalies I've detected in our quantum shield tests. We're not just disrupting their ability to adapt, we're disrupting their connection to the collective. Reinhardt's mind raced with new possibilities. Operation Thunderbolt had been designed as a military strike, but with this new information, it could become something far more significant, a chance to free more Voidborn from the collective's control. All ships, hold position, he ordered. Dr. Volkov, work with our new allies. I want to know everything they can tell us about the collective's weaknesses. As the discordant ship docked with the Prometheus, tension mixed with hope on the bridge. The next few hours would determine not just the outcome of the war, but potentially the future of both species. The Voidborn had sought to understand humanity through combat. Now, through an unexpected alliance, humanity would show them something else entirely, the power of choice, of freedom, of standing against the tide. But even as preparations began for this new phase of the war, long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. The collective had discovered the discordant's betrayal, and they were coming in force. The real battle was about to begin, and its outcome would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the very nature of consciousness in the galaxy. The observation deck of the Prometheus had been converted into an emergency war room, where holographic displays showed the approaching collective fleet, a massive swarm of crystalline ships that seemed to darken the very fabric of space. Admiral Reinhardt stood with the discordant representative, a being of fractured crystal and shifting light who had taken the name Echo. Their numbers are greater than anything we've encountered, Diana Jackson noted, studying the tactical display. They've committed their entire fleet to this assault. Dr. Volkov worked furiously at her station, correlating data from the quantum shields with information provided by the discordant. Her cybernetic eye pulsed with rapid calculations. The collective's response is extreme. There's something we're missing. Echo's crystalline form flickered with patterns of light that their translation matrix converted to speech. You are correct, Dr. Volkov. The collective's actions are driven by more than mere conquest or assimilation. They are driven by fear. Fear. Reinhardt turned to face their alien ally. Fear of what? Echo's form shifted, projecting a series of images into the room's holographic system. They showed massive void-like tears in space, spreading like cracks in reality itself. We call them the Hollow. They are coming, consuming everything in their path, not just matter and energy, but consciousness itself. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Volkov's hands trembled slightly as she analyzed the data. These tears in space, they're not natural phenomena. They're weapons. Created by a civilization that existed long before either of our species, Echo confirmed. The Hollow are their legacy, a weapon that escaped their control and now threatens all conscious life in the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Reza Daller stepped forward, his xenobiologist's mind racing with possibilities. The collective's obsession with assimilation, they're not trying to conquer. They're trying to preserve. Yes, Echo's form pulsed with what seemed like sadness. The collective believes that only by uniting all conscious beings into a single network can we hope to resist the Hollow. They see individuality as a weakness that makes us vulnerable. Admiral Reinhardt paced the deck, his military mind processing this new strategic reality. But you disagree. That's why you broke away. We believe that strength lies in diversity, Echo responded. The collective's uniformity makes it predictable, inflexible. We have observed humanity's greatest achievements, they come not from uniformity, but from the clash of different ideas, from creativity born of individual experience. Dr. Volkov suddenly straightened, her cybernetic eye flashing. The quantum shields, they're not just disrupting the collective's network. They're creating a new kind of space, a buffer zone where consciousness can exist without being absorbed into either the collective or the Hollow. A third path, Echo agreed. One that preserves both unity and individuality. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the ship. The collective fleet had begun its attack, but something was wrong. Their formations were chaotic, desperate. They're not attacking in their usual pattern, Diana observed. This isn't their normal tactical approach. Because they're running, Reinhardt realized. The Hollow, they're not just coming. They're here. The tactical displays confirmed his words as massive tiers in space began appearing at the edges of their sensor range. The Hollow were arriving, and they brought with them an absolute darkness that consumed everything in their path. Dr. Volkov's fingers flew across her console. The quantum shields, if we modify them, expand their effect, we might be able to create a safe zone, a space where both humans and Voidborn can survive without losing their individuality. But we would need to work together, Echo added. The shield network would require both human technology and Voidborn crystalline matrices, working in perfect harmony. Admiral Reinhardt looked out at the approaching darkness, then at the desperate collective fleet. In a matter of hours, they had gone from fighting for humanity's survival to fighting for all conscious life in the galaxy. Send a message to the collective, he ordered. Tell them we offer an alternative. Not assimilation, not extinction, but cooperation. Show them what we've learned from the quantum shields. As the message was transmitted, the bridge crew watched in tense silence. The future of both species hung in the balance, and with it, perhaps the future of consciousness itself in the galaxy. The collective's response would determine whether they faced the Hollow as divided prey or united defenders. But regardless of their choice, humanity had proven itself more than worthy of survival. They had shown that true strength lies not in uniformity, but in the ability to find unity in diversity. The final battle was approaching, and its stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined when this war began. The bridge of the Prometheus had become a symphony of alarms and urgent communications as humanity faced its greatest challenge. The Hollow's void-like tiers in space grew larger, their absolute darkness threatening to consume everything in their path. The collective fleet hung in space, their crystalline ships glinting in the starlight as they processed humanity's offer. Admiral Reinhardt stood at the center of it all, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights. Status of the quantum shield network, Dr. Volkov. Integration at 70%, she replied, her cybernetic eye pulsing rapidly. The human discordant hybrid technology is stable, but we need more power to create a large enough safe zone. Echo's crystalline form shimmered with urgent patterns. The collective is responding. The massive Voidborn fleet began to move, their ships rearranging themselves into a new formation. For a moment, everyone on the bridge held their breath, wondering if they had made a terrible mistake in revealing their plans. Then, incredibly, the collective ships began to change. Their perfect crystalline structures started to fragment, not in the chaotic way of the discordant, but in a controlled, purposeful pattern. "They're adapting," Reza observed, his sensors recording everything. "But not to fight us, they're modifying themselves to integrate with our shield network." The voice of the collective filled the bridge, a harmony of countless minds speaking as one. "We acknowledge the wisdom in your solution, humans. Unity need not mean uniformity. We will contribute our power to your shield network." Admiral Reinhardt allowed himself a brief smile. "Begin integration procedures. All ships, maintain defensive positions around the shield generators." The next hours were a blur of activity as human and void-born technology merged in ways never before imagined. Dr. Volkov worked tirelessly with both discordant and collective engineers, creating a hybrid system that preserved individual consciousness while allowing unprecedented levels of cooperation. But the Hollow were not idle. The tiers in space grew larger, and the darkness began to take shape, massive entities of anti-light that defied physics and sanity alike. "Shield network at maximum power," Diana reported. "Safe zone established and holding." "Multiple hollow entities detected," Reza added, his voice tense. They're trying to breach the shield network." The attack, when it came, was unlike anything they had prepared for. The Hollow didn't just attack their shields, they attacked reality itself, trying to unravel the very space that the shield network protected. "Shield integrity failing in sectors 7 through 12, Diana called out. "We can't maintain the full protective zone." Dr. Volkov's hands flew across her console. "We need to modify the shield frequency." "Echo, can the collective help us understand how the Hollow are attacking?" The combined consciousness of humanity and the Void-born worked together, analyzing the Hollow's assault patterns. Every time the ancient weapons found a weakness, the shield network adapted, incorporating both human intuition and Void-born processing power. "They're learning from us," Admiral Reinhardt realized. "Just as the Void-born learned from humanity, we're all learning from the Hollow, learning how to defend against them." The battle raged for hours, a desperate fight not just for survival, but for the very nature of consciousness itself. Human creativity combined with void-born processing power, creating defenses that evolved faster than the Hollow could adapt to breach them. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the tiers in space began to shrink. The Hollow, faced with a defense they couldn't overcome, began to retreat. As the immediate danger passed, the combined fleet of humanity and the Void-born assessed their situation. The shield network had held, protecting a significant portion of space from the Hollow's influence. Within this safe zone, both species could exist, neither fully separate nor fully merged, but something new entirely. "We have achieved something unprecedented," Echo observed, their crystalline form reflecting the light of distant stars. "A society that preserves individual identity while allowing for perfect cooperation when needed." Admiral Reinhardt looked out at the fleet, human ships and void-born vessels working together in perfect harmony. "We've done more than survive. We've evolved, both of us. And we're stronger for it." Dr. Volkov's readings confirmed what they all felt. The shield network, it's not just protecting us. It's creating a new kind of space, one where consciousness can exist in ways we never imagined possible. The threat of the Hollow remained at the edges of known space, a reminder that their work was not finished. But humanity had proven itself not just worthy of survival, but capable of leading the way to a future that preserved the best of all possibilities. As the combined fleet began the work of expanding their safe zone, Admiral Reinhardt reflected on how far they had come. The Void-born had initially threatened humanity, seeing them as a resource to be absorbed. Instead, humans had shown them a better way, a path that led not to absorption or extinction, but to genuine cooperation and growth. The stars seemed brighter somehow, shining with new possibility. The ultimate consequence of threatening humanity hadn't been destruction, but transformation, for everyone involved. The future was uncertain, but they would face it together, united yet individual, ready for whatever challenges the universe had in store.